Welcome. We're here again at International Quilt Market. It's fall 2014 and we're in the Aurifil booth where there's some games going on, just in case you hear the noise and the cheering. These are two of the Aurifil designers who have new thread collections. I'm here with Sarah Lawson and Lynn Krozik, and you both have great new thread designs, and you also brought us some goodies to see. Sarah, could you show us your things first?
My new thread collection of Aurifil floss is called Fantasia, and it coordinates with my new line of fabric for Art Gallery Fabrics under the same name. And I brought a project with me that I made with the floss. It features unicorns, mushrooms, very whimsical things in my project, and this is an embroidered pillow that I made for my booth. And it's great with the floss. It's very clean when you're hand sewing with it, and there's no lint, and the finished product looks great.
Well, it is our Aurifil, you know. And this is Lynn Krozik. What have you been up to?
This is my first time showing at Quilt Market, and it's also my first fabric collection. I'm with Red Rooster Fabrics, and the line is called Inked, which is also the same name as the thread collection. I'm a surface design artist, and what I do is I paint fabric. So my hand-printed fabric was all translated into commercial fabric, and I've been a hand stitcher from the very beginning. So I started in crazy quilting, and I just love how meditative it is. So this is the little quilt that I made with my fabrics that's actually on the cover of the box, and then just a small hand stitching project that I did for fun.
So the stitching becomes part of really the design of the fabric.
Yeah, very much for me. And the floss is, this stuff is so nice. It's really smooth, and it didn't lint, like you said, like some of the other thread does. And it's beautiful. The colors are real saturated. It's great to work with.
Yep. And Sarah, how many colors are there all total? Because there are a lot of them, aren't there?
Yeah. There's 10 different colors in my box.
It's the same for me. There's 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you chose your collections from all the colors.
That wasn't easy.
Oh, yeah. So Lynn, where do you get your inspiration?
So I think a lot of my inspiration comes from the fact that I'm kind of a nerd, and I work in engineering for an automotive company. So the work that I do in my day job is extremely precise. So when I do my artwork, I tend to gravitate towards looser, more abstract, not super concise stuff. I like the freedom that abstract design gives, so I think that's where a lot of it comes from. It's like a nice break from having to be so perfect all the time.
Yeah.
So
the other interesting thing I've heard people say who work in very tech industries is, I never really see the product that I made and I did, and to have something that I made this gives you a sense of satisfaction and completeness.
Because there's so many steps to it, right? Yep. So you're just a small part of it, and a lot of times you don't see the real end product.
Yep.
You're just part of the whole big orchestra of it. So it's nice to do this kind of thing, and you hold it in your hand, and especially like with the hand stitching, you get to spend more time with it, and that's why I like it, because it's relaxing. Yep. So.
Sarah, where do you get your inspiration?
Well, because I design primarily bag patterns, I always seek out the large-scale prints, the brightest colors, and often I'll design a bag around a fabric, so making the fabric fit on the bag in the perfect way and be featured the best it can. So I'm definitely inspired by bags and also by fabric designs.
Now, when you design fabric, then do you work the other way around? Do you design the fabric thinking of a bag? Because not everybody's going to make bags with your fabric.
That's true.
So do you think like this motif would look great, or this part of it? Do you work backwards?
Well, for fabric design, I do still try to stick with a few large-scale prints in the scheme of all the designs, but because we're in the quilting industry, I definitely need smaller prints in there to cater to the quilters or people that will buy a bundle to make a quilted project. So.
Now, do you do anything else with the bags since you design bags? Do you sell them, or do you sell patterns?
I sell patterns.
Okay.
I sell bag patterns. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, great. You've got a little talent on this table right here. So, Sarah, tell me about your fabric line.
Okay, my new fabric line is called Fantasia, and it includes a lot of whimsical imagery like the unicorns that I mentioned before, butterflies, mushrooms, and this great floral that I have in this bag that I made using Aurifil thread, not the floss, but I use Aurifil thread for all of my projects. So this bag is an example, and also the top that I'm wearing right now is made using Aurifil, so it's great for knits, it's great for bags, embroidery, it's great for any stitch-related project.
So you use the cotton even when you're sewing? Really? Okay.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yep.
And she has an adorable skirt on. It's tulle, bright pink. You're adorable. and you go. I mean, you have a look. You have a real look.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that's what we're after, right? Yeah. And tell us about your fabrics, Lynn. Your two looks are so different. It's just wonderful. This is what quilting's all about.
Yeah, I started out as a surface design artist, and what that means is I screen print and paint directly on the fabric, and I hand dye the base colors and everything. And I wrote a book for F&W for Interweave called Intentional Printing, and it teaches you how to do that. But the problem is that paint makes the fabric really stiff, so it's not very fun to stitch through, and then it's not fun if you're doing wearables or quilts or anything like that. Right. It's kind of like trying to stitch through armor. So after the book came out, people started asking me about buying fabric, but it wasn't really suitable. You know, it's nice to look at and hang on a wall, but not to make out something that's going to go through the wash and everything. So I decided to see if I could get a commercial line, and I hooked up with Red Rooster, and I hand printed all of the samples for these, and they made reproductions, and they did a fantastic job. They're spot on. They look exactly like the handprints.
Wow. Wow.
So I'm kind of a color junkie.
I can see that.
Really saturated colors. That's what I like. So,
do you have any tips for hand stitching? You've done a lot of it. Do you have any special things that you do? You've got a lot of running stitches, but you do other kinds of stitches as well.
My best tip is no more than 12 to 18 inches in length, and you'll probably, because it starts to really tangle when you pull it through. And then,
when you cut your threads to work with.
Yeah, when you cut the thread length. Yeah. And then also when you're separating the floss, if you kind of hold it and take out one piece at a time rather than trying to separate out 3 or 4, it's a lot easier.
I've learned that the hard way.
Yeah, and it kind of takes some of the twist, out of the thread, so it lays nicer on the surface of the project too. So one at a time as opposed to like half of the thing. You'll be happier.
And how do you store your threads? Because you have all these pieces, and you have to have a system where you get this jumble.
I get those little plastic things from the craft store. Is that what you use too? Yeah. They're nice. You just wrap them around, and you can do multiple colors on them, so you don't need a ton of them.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good. And Sarah, tell me, your stitching's different. You do a lot more intricate. You have a lot more stitches. You're laying them down thicker. Do you have any tips for people?
I like to use all 6 strands of the floss.
Oh, really?
I like the stem stitch and the satin stitch, which is this filled in. That's my favorite. I would probably do that on everything if I could, but it takes so much extra time to use the satin stitch, so I try to mix it up a little bit.
But going through a fabric like this is pretty densely woven. You get the 6 strands through okay?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I like to use quilting cotton with a little bit of stabilizer. I use the Pellon SF101, which is their Shape Flex. And yeah, it goes through great.
That's what does it. And how do you transfer your pattern down on here?
Well, this is actually one of my new products. It's an embroidery pattern, and it comes as an iron-on transfer. And you can also trace it if you prefer to trace. So,
okay, good.
Yep.
Excellent. Well, what fun stuff. The thing about coming to Quilt Market is I get so inspired. Do you too, that you just want to go home and make stuff? Yeah.
Yes.
Well, you did the work for us, so we thank you so much. And it is fabulous. You got to try it because it's very different than other floss that you use, isn't it?
It is. It is. Yep. Very much.
All right, well, try all these great projects and a new thread and have fun making cool stuff with Aurifil.